Welcome to the Fit2 Talk podcast.
Thank you as always for listening as we bring you meaningful, helpful and accurate information and...
Remind you that fitness doesn't have to be boring.
Right now you're listening to one of our talk episodes during which Bobby and I do just that. And if you like what we do, then please leave us a review.
And on that note, cue the music!
I love that.
Yeah, you should know I got kind of trapped by my headphone wire just now. As I started that, I was like, oh, there goes my head.
Okay.
So that was off to a solid start, I would like to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a solid start for us in general, hasn't it?
We have had an eventful time, let's say.
An eventful time. Before we get into that, I've got a joke.
Do tell.
Or at least the first half of a joke.
Okay, yeah.
It is suitably poor.
Oh, perfect. Exactly what I wanted.
In fact, this one might be my worst yet.
Promises.
But it is topical. So, what do you get when the King of England farts?
I don't know.
It's highbrow, this. Highbrow.
You know I love highbrow.
We'll get the answer a little bit later on.
Can't wait.
I'm sure everyone is on the edge of this.
People are skipping forward. Like, I need to know.
What does happen? Does he fart?
Does he fart?
I mean, he must fart.
He must.
Everyone must fart.
I wonder if he lets out like massive rippers. He's just there like, yeah, the corgis. He blames it on the corgis. Although he's got a different dog now, hasn't he? He's not.
He's
the corgi. Is it Jack Russell?
I think so. I don't know. That rings a bell.
Yeah, somebody said that to me at one of those Coronation Street parties. I went to a Coronation Street party.
It was so funny because I read that wrong. My sister went to a Coronation Street party and I thought it was a Coronation Street party.
Imagine just rocking up as Deirdre Barlow.
Oh, hey. I have got this wrong.
Wow, that went horribly wrong.
So obviously, one of the things that's happened this week was the coronation, which we'll chat about in a second. But you may have noticed this episode is titled Corona-tion.
Yeah, clever. Wordplay.
Thanks. And that's because we both contracted COVID.
Yes, we did.
Have you had it before?
No, this is my first ever time. It feels very retro.
I was trying to work that out because I was like, I was saying for me it's the second time confirmed anyway. And
we know how the first time went.
We do because that's how we met. Mm-hmm. So this is how we depart.
Oh my God.
It's the end of Fit2. You've heard it first.
Just bookended by Corona.
So that was horrible. The last week and a half? I don't know how long it's been.
No, I don't know, but it was rough. It was really like grim.
You sort of, we don't know who got it first, but you certainly suffered with it first.
Yeah, I did. My symptoms presented first.
Yes. There was a moment in which you were sat on the sofa hugging a pillow, which I've literally never seen you do. And we were carrying out some kind of activity or work, and I was like, "You sure you want to carry on with this? Like, we can just stop." And you were like, "Yeah, no, I'll soldier through. I'll soldier through." I looked at you. Are you sure? And you're like, "Yep, I'll carry on.
I've got this. I'll be fine. All right." Yeah, I wasn't all right. That cushion was really helping me. And then the second I stopped hugging the cushion,
because you got up, right?
Yeah.
You then walked around, joined me at the table, and then were like,
I was like, no, I'm going to bed.
This is bad.
And I got into bed and I don't think I've told you this yet. I cried in bed. I was like, this is not a good place to be.
You're like, this is the end of all things.
I'm like, wow, this might be it. This might be the moment.
Wow. It's rough, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's rough. I mean, that being the first time I've had it, that I know I definitely have had it. Yeah. I feel like I have had it before, just based off how I felt then. I was like, oh, that's it. That feels a little bit more familiar. But yeah, and I think what's interesting for you and me, I think, in this kind of situation is that because we have underlying other health issues, they suddenly become exacerbated massively by that COVID thing.
Yeah.
And then that just kicks off a whole wheel of problems.
Yeah, and it was tricky for us, I think, because we'd been so busy for that. We knew that April was going to be 4 weeks of hell and a crazy amount of hard work that we were both going, okay, we're going to be exhausted. Our bodies are going to be run down. And so trying to work out whether it was that or when there was a clear moment when it wasn't that.
Yeah.
When it was like, oh, no, this is...
Like, no, this is something more than that. But yeah, no, it's difficult, I think. And I think that's been the thing with COVID for a long time. Like, knowing what is just like fatigue and your daily like level of rundown is, and kind of differentiating those two, particularly like, I know I harp on about like the fact that we have these underlying health things, like but pain and being uncomfortable is nothing new to us on a daily basis. So you kind of, it becomes even more blurred when you go, well, no, it's probably just like a bad version of what's going on normally. And then you're like, oh, I'm just feeling a little bit rougher, a little bit worse than I would normally feel on this day. And then you go, oh, no, this is something different.
Yeah, like, no, I feel, oh, this is really bad. You're totally right. It's, you end up in this place and then there's a clear moment, I think, we've discussed this, haven't we, that it was like, oh, whatever's happening physically, my body's losing that fight.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like, that it's like, oh no, this is going downhill and it's getting worse. And okay, well, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I told you about this, I had I would say a minor disagreement with Maddie. And by that, I mean, only sort of 2 or 3 sentences were exchanged at all. And it's when I couldn't breathe again.
Yep.
And she was like, you need to go to the hospital. Well, she didn't actually say that. She was like, at least call 111.
At the very least.
It was like, she'd said the night before, like, would you call 111? And I was like, no.
I will not.
I will not. And I was like, I'll call them in the morning if it hasn't got any better. And it had got worse in the morning. And she was like, well... So, and then later that in the evening of that day when it got really, really bad and my blood oxygen was like down to like 90% or some stuff like that, which obviously we should go to hospital then.
Bad times,
And that same, you mentioned, let's harp on about underlying health conditions, but when you deal with chronic pain, the stubbornness you require to just get through every day and focus and manage in spite of that pain that you're managing also has a negative outcome, which is that when things are bad, you're like, no, I can manage this.
I've managed worse, I'll be fine.
Yeah, which sometimes is not ideal.
No. It's probably something that we should learn from moving forwards.
It's just very difficult to do.
Yeah.
Because it depends on, different people have different experience of chronic pain, obviously, but it depends on how much pain you're in most of the time. When you go, well, I'm in significant pain regularly, you're like, well, how then? How do I...
Yeah, how do you...
If I sat and didn't do anything, or if I sat and recovered, when people go, oh, take care of yourself, you're like, well, yeah. Like, what do you think I'm doing? Yeah, look after yourself, okay? How helpful, thank you.
What? I wasn't doing that. That's where I went wrong.
Fine.
I should have looked after myself.
There we go. Now we know, but we're on the way out of it now.
We are. Clearly we are.
And we're not infectious. Yeah, because this podcast is happening, so. But also, the king got crowned.
The king did get crowned.
Did you manage to watch any of it?
I watched absolutely none of it.
Okay. I was in full Corona effect at the time. And I managed to watch just under 10 minutes before my brain wanted to scream for many reasons. But I literally watched the moment the crown went on his head.
Fair.
And this is bizarre, I felt a bit sorry for him.
From the stuff that I've seen in the highlights, he looked nervous.
Yeah. And he looked...
Which, understandable.
He looked sad.
Well, I suppose it's a weird situation, isn't it? Like, you go, if you just look at him as a person, like, he's in this situation because his mum has died.
Yeah.
And I suppose you don't ever I'm from the outside in going, oh, it's the coronation, it's a massive jubilation, it was a massive exciting moment for him. But actually you go, it's tinged with some sadness. He will still be grieving the loss of his mother. Yeah. And because this is so deeply associated with that, you go, oh, well, that's actually that is quite a sad moment.
What I did I'm conflicted because, you see everything on social media from people hating on them, the event, and people who absolutely love it and take great joy from it. And I don't think I really sit firmly in any camp. I kind of agree with a lot of it. I think there's so little joy to find in our day-to-day life. And if that is something that brings people together and communities to celebrate and party, then I'm all for that. At the same time, when we have a literal crisis and the NHS is on its knees, why spend 100 million on this thing? But then it hasn't happened for 70 years. Like it's...
You can make arguments both ways quite easily. And you could go round and round in circles for days because there are... Let's spend the entire podcast doing it. And like I have gone round and round about it, and I don't really... I kind of sit in both camps because I go, in this day and age, is it the right thing? In a cost of living crisis, is it the right thing? Probably not. But then you go, actually, the country as a whole kind of relies quite heavily on the royal family even in just basically like a tourism sense. You go, well, it cost 100 million. I wonder how much money it will generate purely from tourism for the next like 10 years, because we've suddenly got a new king. Everybody's going to want that Royal Dalton china. Yeah. Give me that sweet china with Charles's face on. And you go, well, maybe there's something to be said to that. I don't know. It's a complicated conversation, and it's I feel what I think is difficult, and I think this is just kind of modern society, is that you can't have a conversation necessarily. People are very much in a camp. And they go, this is my opinion. Nobody else has a right to an opinion. And you go, well, no, actually, can we not just chat about it and like kind of
that's
work
the
things
thing.
out?
There's a really valid point about the royal family that they have incredible privilege, and they have it on the back of some horrendous deeds of their ancestors.
Absolutely.
And actually, now I can say ancestors for Charles, but really the Queen carried out a whole bunch of that stuff.
No doubt.
And so, a lot of this privilege that they have, it is due to that horrific record of the British Empire.
Yeah.
At the same time, yes, it's a privilege, but isn't it also a curse? Like, in my head, there's sort of like these weird... They're what Beyonce was 400 years ago. And by that, I mean... They are the celebrities that people wanted to know what their lives were about. They were larger-than-life characters that carried out these acts on behalf of God and larger entities. And I don't mean just Beyonce, like any kind of... They were figureheads for stuff, whereas now we kind of have corporations and artists that fill that role. And then watching the ceremony, the tiny bit that I watched, it's so unbelievably steeped in religious beliefs. And the ceremony is 1,000 years old and has very little change in it. So how do you carry out a 1,000-year-old ceremony and update it without it not being that ceremony anymore and make it relevant? Really, like it's not really possible to do that. I don't even know. I don't know. But there is a version of the royal family, I think, that exists that serves the people. And I don't think we've found it yet.
I think that's a very good point. I think there needs to be some sort of adaptation to modern society, and I think it's on Charles's shoulders and then eventually on William's shoulders to find what that is and find how best they can serve the country as a whole. Yeah, in whatever sense. I think people pushing for a republic. I think. It's kind of like hitting your head against a brick wall. Like maybe we are better off like trying to change what we currently have and trying to adapt that to make it a better thing. Yeah. Than going, hey, let's get rid of it completely, because I can't see that happening. Like I'm
not
like,
peacefully.
Not peacefully. And I am not by any means a royalist. Sam will tell you I have no horse in this race. But there's got to be a way that we can make it a better thing for the UK as a whole.
And I do think I see all these protests like "Not My King" and this stuff, and I understand it's an unelected leader, right? So we didn't have a say in this. However, look at our elected leaders.
Yeah, we can't be trusted with that. So
this is my point. When you go, it's an old Churchill quote, right? He said the biggest, I might be butchering this, but it's essentially the biggest argument against democracy is 5 minutes alone with a constituent, i.e. with a normal person.
Yeah.
And again, I'm probably slightly misquoting that, but that's the sense of it. And, you know, when you look at things like decisions we've made as a whole that have now, you know, look at the state of the NHS, look at the state of outcome post-Brexit, all of this stuff. The decisions we make are uneducated overall because it's impossible for us to find the information that we need. Or not impossible, but require more time and effort than people have because they have to work 2 jobs or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So we elect people smarter than us and more educated in those realms to make those decisions, in theory, but then we don't trust them to because of their entire record of backstabbing us. So that system is messed up. So it's almost nice to have a fail-safe in place where there is a king or queen at the end going, yeah, I can actually just remove you from power.
Yeah.
Even though if that happened, there would be a revolution.
Well, yes.
It's good to know that the option's there.
We love options.
Like, if the Prime Minister started losing their mind, then we can pull them back a little bit.
Yeah, just rein them in. Rein them in.
Literally rein them in. There's a little clip as Camilla walks down. I don't know if I sent it to you.
No.
And I will send it to you.
I'm excited.
Where it sounds like they're singing.
Oh, no, I have.
Yes.
Yeah, I have.
Wide-backed vagina Camilla.
Wide-backed vagina Camilla.
And I it's like they're singing it at her. And obviously they're not singing that, but it is comedy gold.
It is amazing.
But anyway, that's enough of us chatting about the Royals because we don't know what we're talking about.
I have no idea what I'm talking about with the Royals, but...
So if you've
that's not our opinions.
If you've borne with us, if you've bared with us throughout that... If you're still with us...
If you're still with us, if you're still listening, well done.
We'll get to that thing. What do you get when the King of England farts?
I don't know. What do you get?
A royal gas. Thank you. You're welcome.
That's terrible.
It is.
That's just terrible. That's not even like bad terrible. That's just terrible. That is awful. That's the worst one yet.
If you haven't stopped listening by now, now's the time.
Now is the time to switch clean off.
Thank you so much for listening. And don't miss our next guest episode when we are joined by Eddie's Mamet.
Oh, the legend with luscious long locks. What a beautiful man he is. I'm such a fan. So that's coming out. Check that out on Monday. It's going to be an absolute banger. Find us on social media at Fit2_talk. As always, if you've got any questions you'd like answered by us, feel free to get in touch. Slip slide into those DMs. I will be sat there in a crown with a scepter and nothing else.
Oh, woof. Don't forget to leave us that review. Thank you so much if you already have. And if you like what you've heard, then we have been Fit2 Talk with me, Steffan.
And me, Bobby. And if you didn't like it, we've been Joe Wicks. Peace out.